Obviously finishing up preparation here for our game against a really good Penn State team. I think it's our biggest challenge of the season in a lot of ways. We had obviously a very tough game with them last time out, just a short few weeks ago, down 8 late. They're really gifted. They're disruptive defensively, lead the league in turnover percentage. They're great on the glass. They're terrific offensively. And Jim's done a great job. They're well coached and play extremely hard. So I think for us, they've just got a lot of gifted guys. They play 4 guards. They can really shoot it and score. And they've got a big kid in 21 who I think is an all caliber conference big kid based on his numbers and his production. So they've beaten obviously good teams home and road. We talked about the Virginia Tech game, but they also had just recently have beaten Wisconsin at home and other teams. So we'll need to obviously play. I think we'll need to play one of our better games.
Okay, we'll start with Clay Hall.
Chris, with Michigan looming, has it been a tough sell at all to get ready for Penn State?
Yeah, Clay, not really. I say that. I think we've got great respect for Penn State and the fact that we were down 8 with a few minutes to go here.
Right.
And let's be honest, Clay. Last several years we played there. The games haven't been close. They have beat us handily. I think our guys are well aware of how good this Penn State team is. You look at their numbers. Granted, they had the COVID delay, but you look at their numbers, they're a top 25, 30 team, and Ken Palm or the net. So I think, to be honest with you, I think we have a great understanding based on what they've done to us there the last couple of years, and then also our just absolute battle with them here.
I get it. Any chance you're prepping for both? You're going to get back into?
Not at all. Not in the least.
No. Okay.
Not in the least. Not 1 second.
Okay. You're going to get back in the wee hours. I just thought maybe you'd look ahead.
No, I understand. I appreciate the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, but no, our sole focus is Penn State.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Griffin Strong.
Hey, Coach, I'm just wondering, especially with your guys' depth being such a strength for you this season, when you're approaching, attacking a team like Penn State, they typically play kind of a shorter bench than you guys specifically. What does that change about the way you approach attacking them, if anything?
Yeah, I don't know that it'll change anything, Griffin, significantly. I think we'll play the way we play, and will it shorten our rotation? I don't anticipate that right now. We'll go kind of based on game to game and how guys are playing.
And then I know, Seth Lundy had a huge game against you guys last game, but he's kind of had a slump since then. But it seemed like Musa came in and played some really good minutes on him defensively. Do you see this being an opportunity for Musa to play more if Lundy gets going early against you guys?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. We'll see. I think it's possible. I think their physicality and scoring prowess at the guard and the wing spot is a huge challenge for us. And Lundy and Dredd and Brockington and Jones on down the line. And obviously, one of the things we haven't mentioned is one of their leading scorers didn't play against us last time. So that's another weapon for them. So I think for us, the guard Sessum's number 3 is the one who didn't play. So I think for us, we'll see. We'll see who's in the rotation, but Lundy has always played very well against us.
Okay, next we'll go to Adam Jardy.
Chris, you referenced how they're disruptive defensively, and they turn teams over than anybody in the league.
Yeah.
What do you have to do to try to maybe handle that a little bit better this time than you did the first time?
We just have to be more ball strong, Adam. We have to make better decisions. They play, it's a difficult matchup for us because defensively, how they play, they play some actions differently. They always have their ball screen coverage is a bit different than what is traditionally played in our league, which has worked for them. So it's just, it's a different way of attacking. But all in all, I think you got to be aware, obviously, of Wheeler, his incredible ability to be disruptive and take the ball from you. And we have to be stronger with the ball.
You mentioned them, obviously, like you said, being without Sessoms there. He is one of the best in the country at steal percentage. What impact have you seen him make on that team since you've played them?
Terrific at scoring the ball, getting the ball where he needs to get it. He's coming off the bench really aggressive, Adam. And he's a weapon for him. He's a real weapon for him. And then beyond that, as you mentioned, he's disruptive like Wheeler is. So gives him another really good player coming off the bench.
Okay, next we'll go to Brendan Gulick.
Hey, Chris, thanks for spending some time with us. I want to ask you about Zed Key and the performance that you've seen from him on the whole lately. Where do you see him continuing to grow that makes you happy?
Yeah, no, I think he's understanding. I think he came back a little bit from an ankle sprain, but I think he understands as much as anything the challenges of consistently playing at this level. He's got a real test in 21. Harar, because of his ability, Harar's the best offensive rebounding big per minute in our league. So he's got a big time challenge here on Thursday. But I think he's brought physicality and energy pretty much consistently every game.
How much do you try to, throw in new wrinkles when you play a team a second time? Obviously, it comes down to execution at the end of the game, and you got to make shots to win. By this time of the year, teams know each other's identities. But is there much that you can do strategically to try to surprise somebody or give them a different look, or is it strictly just execution?
No, I think at times there are adjustments you try to make. You try to find ways to maybe put your guys in better position than what they were in game one. They'll make adjustments too. I think both teams do that, whether it's minor tweaks. I don't think it's major overhauls, but I think both teams will try to do those.
Okay, next we'll go to Spencer Holbrook.
Chris, I think there's only been one other time in Kyle's career where he's had double digits in 3 out of 4 games. How much more difficult does that make you guys to defend when he's able to find some quick points there?
Yeah, we need that from him. I think he understands that. He's playing with great confidence now. I think his ability, Kyle's ability to make open shots, to make post ups, to finish around the glass, to create extra possessions has been really good. And it's going to continue to need to be a factor for us.
And then you talked about it off the top here about not looking forward at all, but is there a level of confidence where you don't even have to really mention that because you've talked about your leadership on this team? You've got guys that are able to do that for you. Do you even have to mention that, or is that something that just comes naturally with the leadership you've got?
We've just talked about Penn State with our group, and that's really been our focus, and we've not really mentioned anything else or beyond that, because that's pretty much how we've taken every game. But again, I think our guys understand we're going to need to play well. We're going to need to really play well. We're going to need to we're going to need to play one of our better games. And the guys that return know that from getting up there the last couple of years and really the game's not being very close.
Okay, next up, Colin Oshill.
Chris, these last 6 games, 4 of them outside of the Penn State and Iowa games have been some of your best defensive metrics of the season. How much stock have you put into that being legitimate improvement on that end of the court?
I hope that says something about us trending in the right direction. Some of it might have been dictated by the schedule and not playing. You mentioned Iowa, and what was the other one?
Penn State.
Yeah, those are 2 of the better offensive teams. So I think for us, some of it's schedule related, but hopefully some of it is us trending in a more positive direction. Our defensive numbers in league play, I'll be interested to see what they are at the end of the year. Obviously, everybody knows we got this incredibly brutal gauntlet here in our remaining 5 games. So I'll be interested to see if they hold up and improve from the past year.
Your numbers around the, defending the rim, despite not having that true rim protecting center, have been fairly solid. What's worked there, and what do you need to continue to do and get better to maintain that?
Well, I think we've got to continue to be disciplined in our technique. We have to continue to make that an emphasis. I think Zed has helped with that. But it's not just on our bigs, it's on our guards as well. And I think we just have to continue to try to impact 2-point field goal percentage. You're right. It's not, EJ's a good shot blocker. So I think Zed has that ability. Outside of that, we don't necessarily have that as much, but there is still a responsibility if you're out there and you're the lowest defender to protect the rim.
Okay, next we'll go to Bill Landis.
Hey, Chris, maybe following off that a little bit, just looking at some of your defensive numbers, some of them are really interesting. And I think maybe the most interesting might be the fact that in league play, your team's or your opponent's time of possession is kind of the fastest in the league, which, I mean, you guys don't press, you don't generate a lot of turnovers. What do you make of that? Is there something about the way you guys guard that leads to that, or about the way that the teams attack you that leads to that?
I have no idea. I've wondered the same thing for the last month and a half. Because I've seen that stat as well. And it's really been that number for most of Big Ten play. And I've tried to figure out exactly why that is. And I'm not sure I have a great answer right now, honestly. Some teams are playing a little bit faster. I do think that teams try to attack us in transition. It's an interesting stat because it's a bit of an outlier from previous years.
And in this matchup in particular with Penn State, you mentioned how well they attack the offensive glass. On the flip side of that, you guys are the best defensive rebounding team in the Big Ten in league play. I know we make a lot of your lack of size, probably too much at times, but what has made your team such a good defensive rebounding outfit, maybe in spite of that?
Yeah, we're going to be tested on that, Bill. We're going to really be tested on that tomorrow night. I think it's an area we have to consistently get better, and to keep the numbers where we're at. But it is a point of emphasis in our program. It's been a point of emphasis. If you look at our numbers in Big Ten play and back when we were at Butler, they were consistently upper half of the league in defensive rebounding percentage. So some of it, I think, is what you emphasize, and we do emphasize that as being a really important staple to our defense.
Okay, next up, Patrick Murphy.
Chris, when we ask you about Justin a lot, the topics tend to go to him improving defensively or his all-around game. But after the game on Saturday, I think it was, when he didn't shoot well, he's out on the court for 40+ minutes while we did interviews, just shooting threes. That side of his game, the side of his game that he's known at, how have you seen that develop? How have you seen him become a better three-point shooter? I know he was that coming out of high school, but the work that he puts in to perfect that shot, what do you see from him behind the scenes?
Yeah, no, he's consistently been one of our hardest workers. He had one of the best summers, as I've mentioned, that we had and that I've seen a kid have in recent memory. He had a great offseason. He had a great summer. So I think that thread of and that work ethic is carried on. He's getting a lot of attention right now. He's getting typically hugged up, or teams are flying at him. So he's got to be able to respond to that the right way. And in some cases that means, he won't get as many clean looks, but his work ethic is good, really good.
And when you're a three-point shooter, as he is, how much of it is shooting against air like he was that we saw the other day, and how much of it is needing somebody coming at you like you just discussed to kind of?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both. Very he's not going to have many clean looks. He'll have some. He's got to find some in transition. He's got to find some off of just general ball movement. But, he's got to stay aggressive. He's going to shoot some that are semi-contested, and that's the freedom that I want him to have right now. I don't want him to shoot every one of them to be contested, but there are some that are going to be contested, and a guy like him has proven that he deserves the freedom to shoot some of those.
Okay, we'll go back to Adam Jardy.
Chris, so many of our conversations with you this year have been about how tough this league is and how statistically it ranks as the most difficult league you've ever coached in. And as you sit here and you look at what you still have ahead of you, and just kind of looking at the state of the league in general, can you just, I don't know, try to find a way to maybe explain to us a little bit what it's like to be on your side of it, where you're trying to, you're making your hay in this league, and just like, I wonder what that's like on your end. We watch the games, we look at the numbers, but like, what kind of toll does that take, or what does that feel like to be going through it on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think as coaches, you just don't get to enjoy, any win to the level that you hope your players get to enjoy, really, because you're constantly moving on to the next challenging game. You try not to communicate that to your players because they deserve the right to enjoy wins that are in front of them. But I think when you're in a league like this, you don't really enjoy them very long because you're constantly moving on to what comes next. I think the it's certainly stressful. It's certainly the highest level of grind you could possibly expect. Certainly been the most in a lot of ways. One of the most enjoyable seasons I've ever had, but also in a lot of ways the most exhausting. And I think that's probably true for our coaching staff. So I think, it's what you hope is that it really does prepare you for what's coming beyond the regular season. What I will say is, while I can rattle off our remaining 5 games, I try not to think about it a whole lot, Adam, because it'll just put you in a place that you don't want to be. They're going to come. They're hopefully it'll prepare us for what's next. Obviously, we positioned ourselves with some success here in league play, but you try to move on.
When you talk about like hoping that your players can maybe they can enjoy the wins a little bit more than the coaching staff, when I think about Seth and watching him just on the bench and watching him when he's able to make an impact in some of these games, can you speak to the joy that you've maybe seen him take in, this is always the school he dreamed of playing for, and to be part of a team that's having a season like this? Can you speak to what it's been like as a coach to see him experiencing that?
Well, it's the best part of coaching is seeing your guys in those moments. And Seth Towns has been an enormous part of our success, and to see him celebrate and enjoy being a part of a really good team is really, really rewarding, as is the case for all of our guys. But, when a guy's coming off an injury and coming back to his dream school, that adds to it as well from a coach's perspective. But no, I think that's one of the things that make the job really rewarding, is to see guys, even though Seth understands he's not near 100%, but he also knows that we wouldn't be in the position we're in without his contributions and what he's done this year. And even when he's not making major contributions, you can tell there's real joy with his team performing well.
Okay, next, Stephen Means.
Coach, this might be a weird question for you to answer, but I'm just going to try it. We don't know how many of these games that Michigan's going to be able to make up now that they're playing again. And in a normal situation, given the way that you're playing and given how talented that team at least looked now before they had some COVID issues and now they've gotten back from that. And I know you want to focus on Penn State, but that game would probably be a significant game for both sides on who ends up winning the Big Ten. But since we don't really know how many of those games are going to make up, has there been any conversations that you know of how the Big Ten might actually be able to decide on who a regular season champion is if Michigan can't play enough games to at least match your guys?
I've not heard much, Stephen, on how they would determine or decide that. I think Steve asked me a similar question last week regarding any conversations that I had with the Big Ten along these lines. And at that time, I said, I really just haven't had any. I could pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, what would happen in this scenario or that scenario? I just don't want to do it right now. There's other things to focus on that I believe are more important. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, Stephen, but I've really not went down that road. I'm sure that they've looked at some ideas and some contingency plans based on kind of where teams are at and what, the inequities of the schedule.
Do you maybe have in the back of your mind, like, you got to pick up the phone and you could, but when maybe you do, maybe, I don't know, how deep into the season you want to go before you maybe make that call if you haven't heard anything?
Yeah, not if I put like a timeline on it.
Yeah.
No, maybe I'll evaluate that. So after we, let's see how we play against Penn State and kind of go from there. It's really how I've looked at it kind of day to day. But I've honestly not thought about, well, if we get to this point, then maybe I'll pick up the phone and call. 5 games is a lot left to play, right? And I'm assuming they have 5 or more to play. As well as some of the other teams. But, it's nice to be, in February and be, have conversations and thoughts like this. I'm not minimizing that by any stretch, Stephen. That's a real joy. That's a really cool thing. But, we're ways away from me going down that road.
Okay, we'll go back to Brendan Gulick.
Chris, your answer to Adam's question really struck me. I recognize the overarching challenge of the league and of the job, but kind of the way you answered that made me wonder what brings you joy. What are those moments that you live for? If you're so focused on, not trying to celebrate certain wins because you're on to the next game, what makes you happy?
Wow. That's quite the question there. I appreciate it. I'm assuming we're talking professionally, Brendan.
Yep.
I would say, I think seeing growth in your players, kind of a higher, I think seeing growth in your players, whether it's growth and success on the floor, growth as people, growth in general. If you said, hey, at the end of the day, now listen, winning games in those moments, there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction and reward in that moment. It's just you're moving pretty quickly on to the next thing. But I think anytime you can see growth and progress in your players, on the floor, in their lives, in who they are as people, I think at the end of the day, that's, there's a higher purpose to what I think we're all trying to do here as coaches and people who work with young people beyond the wins. The wins are tremendous, but at the end of the day, we are about the overall growth of our players. And certainly that means between the lines as well.
And I guess just to follow up on that, I mean, do you try to find, whether it's on a game day or not, I guess just little moments where maybe you can, take a deep breath or sit back and look and say, hey, gee, the season's gone really well so far, and look what we have accomplished. And, this is something that we should recognize and celebrate as we're working.
Yeah. After a win, I'll take some time to, put the phone up and enjoy that moment. And, it used to be with family and extended family in the house, and, you'd put the phone up and you'd forget about basketball for a while and you'd have a meal together. And, I've got family that live in Cincinnati, and they'd all come by, and, that would be a great time for us because they love coming to these games. But now it's obviously a smaller get together, but those times for sure.
Okay, we got time for one more. Spencer?
Chris, you talked about after your last game, the complacency in practice and the complacency in what you guys are doing. When you turn on the film from your practices, is there anything that you see that is becoming complacent, and how do you address that when you're this late in the season?
I think you just address it head on. You address it when you see it. You address it. You don't try to make it up, but you address it when you see it. You address it in practice. I think that's you just be honest about it. And I don't think you necessarily go looking for it, but I think you're aware of it. When you've had the amount of success we've had here in the last couple months, but you address it and you try to, keep an edge to your group and to your team. I thought we played with a real edge last week. We'll see if we can play with edge on Thursday. But I give our guys credit for that, but we'll have to play with tremendous edge and competitiveness on Thursday.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to click on that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing, and come visit us over at BuckeyeGrove.com for all the best Ohio State information on the web.